Hey everyone, it is late at night and I am Norman. I really hate jumping on the bandwagon. I generally just don't do it. And this particular topic is all over the place in all the review blogs and just all over. But this is a brand that is near and dear to my heart. I own one of their vintage pieces, and I've seen so many brilliant other watches come through on saved searches. I just love nearly everything they did in the past. And of course, I'm talking about Universal Geneve, and in particular, the pull router. I discussed this in one of my recent news videos, and there was some speculation and concern on my part as far as what the price point for these watches or what the brand starts putting out in whenever they start bringing watches to the market. It sounds like it won't be anytime soon from what I've seen online, so a few years out, something like that. But there was speculation as to what kind of price points they were going to be charging for these watches. I was thinking that they would probably, for a pull router or similar, be going for $5,000, somewhere around there. But I just encountered an interview with Giorgia, the CEO of Universal Geneve now. And yeah, they aren't going to be going for that cheap at all. So in an interview with Monochrome Watches, he says, "I've asked historians and our vintage team to identify dormant brands that are worth acquiring. Universal Geneve was the first on their list. You can't stretch a brand too far. Neither to the lower nor the higher end. There are limits. For most brands, by the way. And so it is for Breitling. Therefore, we intended something distinctly positioned in the high-end segment." And when asked about specific price points, he was kind of vague because it's still in the works. The brand isn't even really relaunched yet. From my understanding, the announcement that's gone out and the 3 pull routers that are not for public consumption were kind of out of necessity due to legalities, since prior to this being resurrected, a Hong Kong company owned it and apparently put out some cheap, garbagey watches. I'm actually glad I haven't encountered those, but I should look them up. So he was somewhat vague, but one thing that he did say was, "We will start most likely around the $15,000 range for a non-complicated steel watch." $15,000 starting. So it sounds like pieces like the pull router, which are not simple time-only steel watches, the dial on a pull router is complicated. So my guess is we would be looking at somewhere around $20,000 for a contemporary pull router, which kind of blows my mind. So as a vintage watch lover, I've always known this brand from a vintage collector perspective. I know that back in the day, Universal Geneve was a luxury watch company. As of the recording this video, I haven't found any exact prices yet. I need to dig into some of their old advertising and then update those prices to what they would be today. But I know the brand from what I see in the used market for vintage watches, and they're actually pretty affordable. So if you're hunting for a vintage watch, you can find brilliant like Don Draper Seamaster Omega DeVilles for anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 usually, And the pull routers were right around that as well. You'll see some pieces on Chrono24 that are a bit more expensive, but with this recent announcement, it appears the prices are already starting to go through the roof, which is really sad and frustrating. Because this is a brand that vintage-wise is actually accessible to collectors like myself who aren't in a luxury watch price point tax bracket. And it's really sad that collectors like myself that love the brand, really love the pull router, will likely not ever be able to purchase a pull router from the now revived Universal Geneve because they're going for a high-end luxury position. And even if we could scrape and save for them, I mean, look at Pateks or Rolex. Like, you can't get them unless you're a rock star, movie star, or you're just flush with cash and can get in really good with an AD somewhere. I'm trying to remember all the particulars. I should have noted them down, but at the Patek AD in Seattle, one of the workers there was telling me some of the insider scoop, and they only get like 0 to, I want to say 3 to 5 Pateks per month, if I remember correctly, with a wait list of potentially over 300 people. And the pieces that they get, who knows what those are. They may not be the ones that all the people in the list are after. So they may not be getting Nautiluses where 250 people are after a Nautilus. So I mean, you're looking at a decade, 2 decades to try and get your dream watch. And Rolex is the same. And I feel like we're going to have the same exact scenario with Universal Geneve. And personally, my take is different than all the articles I've seen so far, where everyone is really excited. I mean, Worn and Wound interviewed a bunch of experts in the vintage watch area. Eric Koo, watch dealer and founder of Loop, said, "This is exciting that Universal Geneve is finally getting a moment on the modern stage. As a storied brand whose vintage chops have never been questioned, it's great to see an infusion of cash and resources at Universal Geneve. Hopefully they can capitalize on the current market trends and make watches that leverage their glorious past and the resources behind the Breitling Group." James Lambden at Analog Shift has a similar outlook and sees an opportunity to, at long last, highlight the story of the brand in a way that hasn't been done to this point. Universal Geneve has an authentic and compelling historical narrative for their many contributions to the industry that provides a unique opportunity as a launching platform for the next chapter in their story. A refreshing change from the norm. Eric Wind, noted vintage watch dealer and member of an advisory panel initiated by Breitling to make plans for the acquisition and initial rollout of products, said, "It is going to be a long time before the watches are released. The timing of the announcement, according to Wind, was spurred by Hong Kong Stock Exchange rules that would have made the news publicly available. It was better to announce it than have someone find it online, publish it without Breitling making an announcement." Still, the thinking from Wind and others around the news can be characterized as excitement. This is an exciting day for fans of Universal Geneve's vintage watches and for fans of vintage watches in general. I'm excited for what is to come, and I think they have an excellent plan in place to revive Universal Geneve, speaking not only to fans of vintage Universal Geneve watches, but offering a compelling product offering for the public interested in modern watches today. And that's where my opinion is different, because these watches are not going to be accessible to the average vintage watch collector. These are people that are used to getting these watches for $1,000 to $2,000 which is entry-level mid-tier. And they're going to be selling them at high-end luxury prices. Personally, I think it's sad, because I think the vintage prices are going to go through the roof. And I feel like those of us who have other Universal Geneve watches in our wish list may not be able to get those, because the prices, I feel, are going to be just huge, even in the vintage market. I personally would love to add a silver dial pull router to my collection to complement my black dial one, but I mean, I'm already seeing $7,000 pull routers on eBay. $7,000. That's crazy. Up until this point, the most expensive ones that I had encountered personally are around $3,000. Somewhere around there on Chrono24. On eBay, $1,000 to $2,000 every day. So, I don't know. Personally, it's bittersweet. I think it's great that the brand is being resurrected, but I think it's terrible that the brand is being resurrected. I don't think that they'll be selling these watches to lovers of vintage Universal Geneve, except for the 1 or 2 movie stars that own vintage UG watches. The rest of us, I fear, are going to be left out in the cold on a brand that we love. I mean, imagine if you're a fan of a certain Seiko watch or Tissot watch, and something happens in the market and they go from $1,000 to $10,000 to $20,000. Yeah. But, alright. I think that's the last I'm going to say on this topic. We'll just see how things go. Thanks for watching.